Welcome to Blue Talks.
Hi, and it's great to be here speaking at Cambridge. I've spent 12 years now working with experts and entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, consultants, helping them to write and publish and market a business book, a book that's going to help them to bring in leads from their ideal clients and to position themselves in their industry. So I've got a process that's pretty dialed in after 12 years. But 2 years ago, I had to make a pivot, which not something I was planning, unexpected, and it very much felt like it was forced upon me. But it was a fun pivot, and I've enjoyed the process. And that pivot is bringing AI into what I do. And just out of curiosity, how many of you are using AI in your businesses? Keep your hand up if you're using it a lot. Okay, so we've got a few hands. So when AI first came out, ChatGPT, it was new, it was fun to play with, but I wasn't using it in any sort of serious way. I was just sort of dabbling. And the reason I was dabbling was because, one, I didn't really know how to get the most out of it. And when I was creating content, writing, what I was getting back sounded nothing like me. It was generic, it was salesy, it was hypey. It was not what I would want to project to the world. And I'm sure you've experienced that same thing. It's one of the biggest complaints, perhaps the number one complaint I get from people when they're starting out using AI in their businesses. So I just dabbled, but I was watching how the industry was changing, my industry specifically, but this applies across the board to pretty much every industry. And I could see AI was moving faster than anything. I've been doing something in the sort of online space for something like going on 25 plus years now. And this is moving faster than anything I've ever seen. There's depending on which report or which article you read, the power of AI is doubling every 3 to 6 months. So we've got this exponential increase in AI's ability. If you're familiar with Moore's law and computing chips doubling in processing power every 18 to 20 months, this is way, way faster than that. And so this is why it was forced upon me. I looked at the industry, I looked at how things were evolving, and I thought, if I don't get on board and figure out how to actually use this, I'm going to be out of business. I've had a previous business failure, and I didn't want to go through that again. So I knuckled down, I started studying, I started learning how to use AI, and specifically how to use it in a way that was authentic and ethical. Because I saw a lot of people doing stuff where they'd say, well, here's a software or here's a process, type a few little things, answer a few questions, type a few things in about your business, and it'll write the book or it'll write the content for you. And of course, I think if you've got a book that you've written, but you don't actually know what's in your book, you probably haven't written it. So I didn't want to go down that road. I wanted to try and square that circle, ethical and authentic. So that was what sort of forced me into AI. It's been a great journey, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why it's so powerful. So speed, cost, and quality. There's lots of reasons, but I'll give you those three just to start with. So speed of implementation, you can do stuff way, way faster. If you do it the right way, you can really significantly increase the quality of your output. You do it the wrong way, you get generic crap, and that's not going to reflect well on you, your brand, your business. But speed, quality, and cost. Speed, quality, and cost. So you can save thousands and thousands of pounds or dollars, both through speed to market, but also through not having to hire agencies or take on staff to do things that you can do using the AI. So I think most businesses are going to need to bring AI in at some point soon, if not already, to properly compete. I'll give you a couple of examples. So, for example, you can use, there's lots of models now where you can feed it with some information about your business, your products, your services, your ideal clients, and it'll write all your marketing emails for the next 12 months. And they'll need a little bit of tweaking, but they'll be really high quality copy. And so that's going to save you maybe thousands of dollars a month on an agency, or maybe you didn't have to hire that full-time marketing specialist, copywriting specialist that was going to do all that work for you. And you can do that you can get the first set of emails done within a few minutes, and then just fine-tune them. So that's going to save you thousands of dollars and weeks of time. You can, in the book space, the single biggest cost and time consumer of the book writing process when I'm working with my clients is the editing process. It can easily take 2-3 months, even if you're trying to fast track it, to turn that process around, get that final form copy that's ready to publish. And it can cost several $1,000s to get a good quality editor and go through the necessary rounds of editing. Well, with AI, you can get your book to 90-95% of the way there using the AI, doing levels of different layers of editing, essentially for free. So you can do that, and you can do it in a few minutes per chapter. And then you can hand it off to a human being to do the final edit, light touch edit, proofread. And what it means is that final edit is going to take maybe a week or so to turn around and perhaps cost a few $100s instead of several thousand. So just a couple of examples there of how you save a ton of time, huge amounts of money. And so we're going to get to a point, if we're not there already, where being able to compete against whoever your competitors are is going to get harder and harder if you're not using AI. The problem is, if everybody can use AI and everybody can pump out 12 months of email marketing content in a few minutes and all of the other good things, then we end up with this a massive content. So it becomes even harder to compete. And if it's AI generating, it doesn't have your unique voice, that authentic stamp of who you are and what you stand for and what you believe in. If it doesn't have those things in it, we drown in this sea of sameness. Everybody's kind of sounding the same. There are certain tells, and if you spent any time reading stuff that's outputted by AI, you learn to spot them. And you can read something and you can straight away say that was AI generated, or at least mostly AI generated. So not only do you drown in that sea of sameness, but also you're putting out that content, your clients recognize that as being AI written. Well, that damages the trust in you, and it damages your credibility as well. So we've got a problem here. How do we square the circle? How do we use AI so that we can compete, save thousands of dollars each year, save a ton of time, but how do we also do it without drowning in that sea of sameness and damaging trust and credibility in the business and the brand that we've built up over however many years we've been doing what we do? Well, the good news is you can square that circle. You can train AI to be authentic to you, what I think of as sort of doing it in an ethical way. And I'm going to explain a way of doing that. This process is something you can do on ChatGPT, but I want you to think more broadly than that. I'll explain the process, but actually this is a generally applicable thing with the other models, and it goes beyond just writing and content creation as well. So what we want to do is we want to build 3 component parts, and we're going to feed them into the AI. The first part is a style guide based on your writing style or the style that you're using for that piece of content, whether it's a book or whether it's marketing materials. So the style guide is the first thing that you want to build. The second thing that you want to create are what I call context layers. This is teaching the AI basically a little bit about who you are, who you're writing to. There are 3 context layers. I'll go through them one at a time in a moment. And then the third thing you want to do is add in any additional instructions. This is a sort of catch-all bucket for anything that's not covered by 1 and 2. So quick way to create the style guide is take existing content that you already have. AI doesn't need tons and tons of stuff. It just, so if you've got a book or if you've got blog posts, take those, feed them into the AI and ask, just very simple prompt, ask AI to give you a detailed style guide. And that in itself is a hugely useful exercise because it'll give you back 15, 20 little paragraphs, little subheading, a little description of what it is you're doing. And you can learn a lot about your writing style just from that. So that's a really useful exercise. Go through that. If there's anything you don't like, you might learn straight away that you're doing something you didn't like. Well, you can just take it out. You don't need to stick to exactly what it gives you. You can just delete that thing and you can adjust your writing style moving forward. So create that detailed style guide. Equally, spend some time thinking about it and think, is there anything that I should be doing that I'm not doing? And you can ask the AI as well for suggestions. And if there's things that you're not doing yet, again, you're training the AI, but you can also train yourself at the same time. So maybe you get some ideas of things you want to incorporate and you can add those into the style guide. So we've got this document, we've got this style guide. We're going to park that. We're going to move on to the context layers. Very simply, we've got three. We've got basically who you are, your bio, your backstory. We've got who your ideal client is or who your target reader avatar is. And then we've got the objectives that you have for that piece of content, that book, that blog post, etc. So your bio backstory, this can be pretty simple, just relevant stuff. It's not your life history. It's just what qualifies you to be talking about this, the experience you've had, maybe the qualifications, something about the work you've done. Because we're trying to get the AI to write and edit as if it's us, so it can help us. Not to replace us, but to help us. So think of it as a writing bot. We're creating this writing bot that we can use and we can use it over and over again, So it needs to know a little bit about who you are so it can pretend to be you when it's helping you with the writing process. We then need to obviously tell it who it's writing to, who that ideal client is, who you're trying to bring into your business, who you're trying to attract. The more you can give it about that, the better. And then finally, what's the objectives? And there are two objectives here. First of all, I would lead with what are your objectives for your client or your prospect or your reader? What are they hoping to get out of reading your book? What are they wanting to learn, take away? How do they want to feel? But also your objectives as well. Maybe you want them to feel a certain way. Maybe you want them to take a certain action. Maybe you want them to take away certain key things or a key framework. So again, telling the AI who you are, who it's writing to, and what you and they want to take away from it. So those are the context layers. And then finally, the additional instructions. This is the bucket for anything else that's not covered by 1 and 2. This might be something like, don't use salesy, hypey language, which is, AI loves that stuff. Don't use jargon or acronyms, or maybe in your industry, maybe you do want to use them. So it's going to be different for everybody. You might say, don't go above a certain reading age grade, because typically we want our books to be easier to read rather than harder. People are more likely to consume them. Sometimes though, if you're writing to, say, an academic audience, that might be frowned upon, so you want to go a different direction. You want to have it sort of at college level or postgrad level. So only you can answer these questions. I'm just giving you a few different ideas here. So get into the mind of the person you're writing to. What are they going to respond to best? What's going to be a good user experience for them? And put those in that bucket there. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to get it right, perfect, straight out of the gate. In fact, you almost certainly won't. So do the best job you can. Don't get paralyzed by trying to make it perfect, because you won't. Create the best version you can, and then when you start seeing what you're getting back from the AI, if there's something missing, you can tweak it, and you can update these instructions in seconds. And it can be an ongoing process. So those are the three things: your style guide, your context layers, and any additional specific instructions. And then you can add those. You can copy and paste them into a chat window, but we can actually create a custom GPT, which is sort of like an app inside of ChatGPT for anybody who's not familiar with them. And we just paste them into the back end. It's a very simple, straightforward process. And then we can save that inside our account. And then anytime we want to write in that particular voice, we can just click on the icon, use that custom GPT that we've built, and it will help us to write and edit and brainstorm and draft in something which is not perfect, never going to be perfect, but is very, very close to our writing style. And you can have as many of these as you want. If you have you have emails which are a little bit tongue-in-cheek and irreverent, and you have a more serious corporate kind of blog post, have a different one for each one. It's very important not to mix up your writing styles, but you can have as many of these as you need. And so this will allow you to do it, use AI in a way that's both authentic, it's trained in your voice, but also ethical. It's also because it's trained on your stuff. It's not pulling from, the interwebs and giving you that generic content. It's actually using your material, and you can add documents. There's lots of things we haven't got time for in this short talk that you can use to augment that. So train the AI up in this way, and then that way you can you get the best of both worlds. You get to use AI in a way that allows you to compete with everybody else who's going to be using it, but you stand out as it's your voice, your unique approach, your philosophy. So you get the best of both worlds. You get to be able to compete in a world where everybody's using AI, and you're saving huge amounts of time, huge amounts of cost. You're freeing up your own mental bandwidth to be more creative as well. But at the same time, you do it in a way that's authentic, it's your voice, and it's ethical. You can feel good about what you're doing. So I just want to leave you with, if you're not doing this already, if you're like I was a couple of years ago, just dabbling with AI, start incorporating it into your business, and just iterate. Don't try and get it perfect first time out of the gate, but start, improve, iterate, and build your business faster, more profitably, more efficiently, and hopefully free up some of your time to do something outside of the business using AI.